The Moon Beetle. The Moon Beetle lived in a little moon-shaped house. He had moon-shaped antennae on his head, and his wings were also shaped like tiny moons. But he couldn't fly because his wings were too thin. He was happy just to sit in the grass and look at the shape of the clouds. His little legs were also weak, and so he could neither fly nor walk. But the little spider helped him with everything. The Moon Beetle sat in a moon-shaped armchair with wheels, and they took short walks together. If the Moon Beetle was hungry, little spider pushed him to the table. He tucked the Moon Beetle into bed at night. Little spider never left the Moon Beetle's side, and he always knew exactly what he needed and when. He also knew when he didn't need help. But the moon chair wasn't good for longer journeys. When he went on longer journeys, he always called on his old friend the centipede for help. So that is how they went collecting mushrooms in the forest and enjoyed trips to the puppet show. And that's how they went to pick strawberries in the summer months. The centipede was happy to carry the Moon Beetle on his back. But one summer day, the centipede received a letter.
Look at this,
he said excitedly.
It's from Reggie Squirrel. He's invited me to visit him. I'm leaving tomorrow. What will happen to me?
The Moon Beetle asked in a sad voice.
How will I go to Alfonso's violin concert tomorrow? Wait, we'll think of something, the centipede said. If only I could go to the concert on my own without help.
The Moon Beetle sighed.
I know what would be good. If you had a chair that you could push yourself in. A rolling chair.
A wheelchair, the Moon Beetle repeated.
Yes, that would be really good.
The centipede produced a pencil and started to design the contraption. When the design was completed, they both went to see Eddie, the potato beetle. He was very handy and could make anything. Eddie studied the design and then got straight to work. He brought his tools, all the parts, and he drilled and hammered. The wheelchair was ready that same afternoon.
Sit in it, try it out,
Eddie said, and he helped the Moon Beetle into the chair.
Now try and push it,
the centipede encouraged his friend. The Moon Beetle carefully turned the ring attached to the wheel, and the chair began to move.
Hooray!
Eddie cheered. This will be my legs, the Moon Beetle whispered quietly, and he smiled. The sunbeams gently stroked his weak legs. They practiced until late in the day. The Moon Beetle slowly learned how to direct, speed up, slow down, and stop the chair. The next day, the Moon Beetle made his way to the Crickets concert all on his own.
Take care of yourself,
the little spider shouted after him in a worried tone. The others were surprised and all ran to greet him.
Hey, you got here on your own?
Berry asked, and took a good look at the chair.
Yes, all on my own,
the Moon Beetle proudly announced, and he told them all about the new contraption. Alfonso's concert soon began. All the forest friends had come along to hear him play. After the concert, Berry and Dolly walked home with the Moon Beetle. The little spider was sitting in the window waiting for his friend to return, safe and sound. Berry's picture. One cloudy afternoon, Dolly the ladybird girl took out her brushes and paints.
I'm going to paint a rainbow,
she decided.
Good idea,
Berry agreed.
And I'm going to paint a bunch of flowers.
They both got straight to work. Dolly carefully painted the coloured lines of a rainbow, and Berry worked hard on his bunch of flowers. He painted 3 tulips, a harebell and a daisy. I only need to paint a ribbon and it's done. I have to hurry because Stanley, Balthazar and Bubble are coming over this afternoon. But just then, Dolly knocked a glass over that was standing in the middle of the table, and water poured all over Berry's painting. The lovely, colourful painting began to run and the lines all smudged. Dolly, you ruined my painting. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. But it's still ruined. Berry sulked and stamped out of the door. I'm going home. Berry, wait! Let's try and fix it, Dolly said, sounding rather unsure, but the snail boy didn't even look back. In the meantime, the clouds vanished and the sky cleared. When Berry got home, he put his soaked painting out in the sunshine. His picture very soon dried, but now it was crinkly and blotchy. Berry stared sadly at his painting, and then he gave a big sigh and threw it down on his bed. Balthazar, Stanley and Bubble will be here soon. I need to tidy up. The door soon opened and his little friends appeared. Hi, Berry.
We're here.
And we brought the cards with us too. Come inside. The snail boy invited them in and they sat around the table. Balthazar shuffled the cards, Stanley dealt, and they started to play. Bubble was soon out of the game. He was strolling around the room and he noticed the picture lying on the bed. He picked it up and stared at it in awe. Goodness me, Berry, it's beautiful. Did you paint it? He asked inquisitively. Berry was surprised and stuttered. Yes, I painted it. They all began to question Berry.
Was it your idea? Will you show us how you did it?
Stanley quizzed. How did you make it so beautiful? Asked Balthazar. Berry just shrugged and said, Yes, it was my idea. It's no big deal. I'd love to show you how to make one. Just then, Dolly walked into the house. She was carrying a large plate of cakes and offered it shyly to Berry. I baked these, Berry. I'm sorry that I ruined your picture. The others all stared at Berry in confusion. Mumbled Balthazar. So it wasn't really your idea? It wasn't my idea. It all happened by accident, Berry began. Dolly knocked the water over, the colours all ran and the painting went all wobbly. I put it out in the sun to dry and then I decided to keep it and not throw it away. It's a good job you didn't throw it away. Could I have it? A lovely bunch of flowers like this would look just lovely on a flower beetle's wall. Of course you can have it, Bubble. I'm sorry that I got so cross. I'm not upset with you, Berry. I brought my rainbow painting with me and I'd like you to have it. Thank you, Dolly. I love it. I'm going to put it on the wall. Would you like to join our game? The snail boy asked Dolly. I'd love to. And we can eat cake at the same time, the Ladybird girls said with glee. The Missing Nuts.
Hello, Berry. Hurry up. Let's go and see Reggie Squirrel. We really should say goodbye to him before he hibernates for winter,
Dolly the Ladybird said. Berry put on his hat, scarf and gloves, and the two friends made their way to Reggie Squirrel's home. Their friend the squirrel was sitting on a branch in front of his home.
We wanted to say goodbye before you snuggle up to sleep through the chilly winter,
Dolly shouted up to Reggie.
Why don't you come up for a glass of juice and a quick nut snack?
Reggie suggested.
Look at all the yummy food I've gathered for winter. My pantry's full.
But oh dear, to everyone's surprise, the pantry was completely empty.
Oh my! Where have all my hazelnuts and walnuts gone? Where are my delicious pine cones, acorns and raisins?
I think this might be where the nuts rolled out, Berry said, pointing to a little hole in the corner of the pantry.
Someone's been chewing the tree trunk,
Dolly said in surprise. And I think I know who it was, the little snail added. Don't worry, Reggie, we'll catch the troublemakers and find your nuts.
And don't forget the pine cones and acorns too,
the squirrel added. The two friends headed towards the big meadow. They heard loud laughter as they got closer.
I knew it was them. They're always getting into some sort of trouble,
Dolly whispered to Berry. I'm sure they're doing something naughty right now, Berry added.
Someone chewed a hole in Reggie Squirrel's tree trunk right outside his pantry. And now all of his nuts are missing.
It was you lot, wasn't it? Berry asked.
But we didn't mean any harm. We were just chewing the bark like we always do, and we didn't know that his pantry was on the other side,
the smallest bark beetle explained.
What can we do to help?
Come with us and we'll find the nuts that rolled away. We haven't got that much time. It could start to snow at any minute. We'll never be able to find his food in the snow, so hurry. They all took a close look at the tree trunk.
The nuts all rolled out here and then they fell to the ground and carried on rolling down the hill,
Reggie explained. The gang of friends found Reggie's goodies in a pile at the bottom of the hill.
Hooray!
Reggie shouted with delight.
Would you please bring all the food back to my home while I patch the hole up in my pantry?
Reggie told the bark beetles. They carefully placed the hazelnuts, walnuts and acorns back in his pantry. Berry and Dolly gave them a hand. They worked as fast as they could, but it got dark very quickly, and they still had a huge stack left at the bottom of the hill.
We'll never finish in time,
one of the bark beetles sighed.
We could really use some extra help,
another added. Berry the snail suddenly sprang to his feet and left in a hurry without saying a word. He was soon back and had a trumpet in his hand. He blew it so loudly that everybody could hear it. Soon all the friends in the forest gathered. Dolly climbed up on a big boulder and told them all what had happened to Reggie Squirrel's winter food supply.
All the nuts rolled out of the hole. We've got to take the food back to Reggie's home. If you all help, it can be done before dark.
Ready, set, go, Berry said, and he lifted a nut from the pile. He gave it to Dolly. She handed it to one of the bark beetles. The bark beetle gave it to the bee handed it to the dragonfly, and so it moved back up the hill to the squirrel's pantry. By the time the moon appeared in the sky, all the hazelnuts, acorns, walnuts and chestnuts were safely stowed away in Reggie Squirrel's winter home. Reggie happily put the last nut back in his packed pantry.
Thank you. I'm so glad I've got so many good friends. It's time for me to tuck myself up in bed before it starts snowing. See you again in spring.
The grateful squirrel yawned. The Yellow Ladybird. The spring had come at last. Dolly decided it was time to tidy up her flower garden. She got her spade and a rake and tied a pretty dotted scarf around her head. She had only just stepped outside when she heard someone groaning behind her house.
Christopher, your wing looks broken,
the little ladybird exclaimed.
The sun shone in my eyes and I flew straight into a tree. I really hurt myself,
the canary said. Just then, Berry the snail and Stanley the stag beetle arrived.
Stanley, please go and get Dr. Owl. Christopher's wing's broken,
Dolly said, taking control. Dr. Owl soon arrived. It looks like a very bad break, he said seriously. Then carefully and slowly he bandaged Christopher's broken wing. You know, Dolly, Christopher said one day,
There's a little ladybird living on the island I come from." "Really? Is she red with black dots like me?" Dolly asked excitedly. "And what's her name?" "She's called Katie. Her back isn't red, it's yellow, but her dots are black like yours. She looks a lot like you. Why don't you come to meet her when my wing's better?" "That sounds like a super idea. Can Berry come too?" "Of course he can. There's enough room for both of you on my back." A few days later, Dr. Owl came to visit the injured canary. He was happy to say that Christopher's wing was as good as new. The canary thanked the owl for his help, put Berry and Dolly on his back, and headed for his island home. They soon found themselves flying over a large lake with a little island in the middle of the water. "Can you see it? We're flying to that island. My nest is on top of the highest tree. Hold on tight, we're coming in to land." Christopher landed perfectly, and Berry and Dolly climbed down. "You can't catch me!" shouted a bright beetle in an orange dress. She was talking to the tiny fleas running after her. "Watch out!" Dolly shouted, but the girl beetle ran right into her. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to knock you over. My name's Katie. Who are you?" "Oh, you're Katie. We're here to see you. My name's Dolly, and I've come a long way to meet my ladybird cousin." "Ladybird cousin?" Katie asked with a puzzled smile. "Yes. You've got black dots just like me, except you're yellow instead of red." "Wow, you're right," the yellow ladybird said. "Come with me and I'll show you my house," Katie said. As soon as they saw Katie's house, Berry and Dolly started to laugh. "My house looks exactly like this, but mine's red." Berry, Dolly and Katie took a long walk around the island. "There's the pine forest with the little stream running next to it. We built the bridge ourselves," Katie explained with pride. "And what's that in the middle of the meadow?" Berry asked. "It looks like a slide." "That's right. It's a special flower slide. Come with me. I'll show you." "Can I have a go?" "Of course you can. Follow me," Katie said and slid down on the curvy slide. Berry, Dolly and Katie slid down the slide again and again until it started to get dark. "It's getting late. Come on, you two, I'll take you home," Christopher said. Dolly and Katie swapped headscarves as a parting present. "Have a safe trip home," Katie told them. "Do visit me again sometime." It was getting very late by the time Christopher arrived at Dolly's dotty house. The moon shone, and the sky was full of sparkling stars. The big spider. Berry, Dolly, Flutter and Balthazar were gathering colourful leaves in the woods when they heard someone crying. "Can you hear something, Berry?" Dolly asked. "Yes, it's coming from the cave." The friends were frightened, but went deeper and deeper into the dark cave. Then they saw where the noise was coming from. A baby beetle sat crying. "Oh dear, what's wrong, baby beetle? Why are you crying?" "I got lost in this dark cave and I can't find my way out. How am I going to get back to my little house?" "What's your name?" Berry asked. "Bubble." "Come on, don't be sad, Bubble. We'll show you the way to your house," Dolly said and hugged the baby beetle. Suddenly, they heard a scary sound from deep inside the cave. They hugged each other. All of a sudden, a big, angry spider appeared and shouted at them.
"Who woke me up? What are you doing in my cave?"
"Run, everybody!" Balthazar yelled, and they all ran. "Let's hide here," Dolly said, and they all hid behind a rock. Luckily, the spider didn't spot them. But then Bubble started crying, and the spider found their hiding place. Berry, Dolly, Bubble, Balthazar and Flutter ran as fast as they could. But oh dear, Balthazar tumbled over a stone, and the big spider caught up with them. Berry grabbed a spiky twig and bravely defended his friends. "Go away, you ugly spider," he shouted. Berry diverted the big spider's attention, while Flutter and Balthazar ran around it with a length of thread. Dolly looked after little Bubble and kept him safe. "We've got you now," Balthazar shouted triumphantly. The spider tried to get out of the tangle, but it couldn't, and then it started to cry.
I didn't want to hurt you. I've never hurt anybody before. I was just mad because you woke me up. Please let me go. I'll show you the way out of the cave."
"Do you promise you really won't hurt us?" Berry asked.
"Yes, I promise. Climb on my back and I'll carry you out."
They all sat on the spider's back and were soon outside again. "It's time for us to say goodbye."
"Please come and see me again."
"Thank you for your help, Spider," Flutter said. Bubble had fallen asleep in the ladybird's arms. "What should we do with him?" puzzled Dolly. "Let's build a pram," Berry suggested, and they got to work immediately. They made him a pram out of a horse chestnut shell with wheels out of little logs. "But where does he live?" "I know," Flutter said. The baby beetle didn't wake up until they reached his house. "Oh, my little house. Have you brought me home? Thank you so much." "Good night, little Bubble." "Sleep tight and don't go into that cave all by yourself again because you'll get lost," Berry and Dolly said. Then they gave Bubble a hug.
The Star House. One summer evening, Berry and Dolly were sitting playing cards in Dolly's house when they spotted a bright light over the hill. "What was that?" Berry asked. "It looked like a shooting star." "A shooting star? Let's go and take a closer look," Dolly suggested. Berry and Dolly held hands and walked in the direction of the strange light. "Look over there, Berry!" The little snail boy's mouth fell open in surprise. Right on the top of the hill stood a house the shape of a star. "Where did that come from? It wasn't there the other day," Berry whispered. "You stay here and I'll run and tell the others," Dolly whispered back, and she flew off to tell Balthazar, Flutter and Stanley. When they were all together, the group of friends crept slowly towards a peculiar house. Stanley knocked on the front door. A shy girl popped her head around the door. She had long hair that sparkled with tiny stars and golden wings that glistened in the darkness. Berry was the first to speak. "Who are you and how did you get here?" But the girl didn't say a word.
"Can we help you?"
No answer again. The girl just stood there and said nothing.
"All right then, if you're not going to speak, then don't. Come on, let's go home."
"Wait a minute," Dolly said. "Perhaps she can't speak."
"She can't speak?"
the others asked back in amazement. Dolly picked up a stick and scripted a star on the ground. Then she handed the stick to the girl.
The little girl reached for the stick and started to draw. A little harp? Dolly asked, and the little girl nodded. You've lost it? Flutter asked, and the little girl pointed to the window. It fell out of the window? The little girl nodded again. I don't understand, Balthazar grumbled. I understand, Dolly said. She lives up in the sky, but she dropped her harp out of the window, and she's come down here to look for it. Then let's help her, Balthazar suggested. Don't worry, we'll find it, they all told her, and they hurried off into the forest to search for her missing instrument. I can't find it, Berry said with a sorry sigh. I've looked in all the bushes. I can't find it either, and I've looked absolutely everywhere, Balthazar added. I'm going to take a look higher up, Flutter told them, and she flapped up into the trees. Here it is! Here it is! I found it! The little butterfly girl soon shouted. Flutter lifted a little golden harp out of the canary's nest. She carefully handed the harp back to the star girl. The little girl flew back into the house and closed the door. She lifted a sparkling star out of her hair and gave it to Flutter. Is that for me? The little butterfly girl asked in surprise, and the star girl nodded. Then she sat in the window and started to play her harp. And as she played, the star house began to lift higher and higher. She's flying up into the sky, Dolly said with her eyes wide in wonderment. Soon it looked as tiny as all the other twinkling stars in the night sky.
It's a shame that she had to go, Stanley sighed.
Flutter took very good care of her twinkling star. She kept it in a little box and only wore it in her hair on very special days. It always reminded her of the little girl playing the harp in her star house, high up in the sky. The Little Bumblebee. Early one morning, Berry, Dolly and Balthazar went out to play in the meadow. They wanted to try out the new parachute the little bee had made. But a little bumblebee was picking lilac flowers and singing a happy song. The winter's gone and it's the spring. Lilac is my favourite thing. Balthazar was the first to greet her.
Hello, little bumblebee. My name's Balthazar. This is Berry the snail and Dolly the ladybird. Who are you?
My name's Betty. I was flying home and I decided to stop and pick lilac flowers in the meadow.
We're on our way to try this new parachute. Do you want to come with us?
Balthazar asked. I'd love to. Balthazar and Betty were the first to jump, and then the other friends tried the colourful parachute. They played until it got dark.
Will you play with us again tomorrow?
Balthazar asked excitedly. I can't. I have to leave early tomorrow morning. My home is far away from here, and I still have a long way to go. So Berry, Dolly and Balthazar said goodbye to Betty. Balthazar looked very upset, so Dolly asked him, What's wrong? Balthazar's got a girlfriend, Berry laughed. Don't make fun of him, Berry, Dolly said angrily. You know what, Balthazar? Ask Betty to stay here. We can build her a house in the woods.
That's a super idea. I'll go to the meadow tomorrow morning and ask her to stay.
Balthazar, Dolly and Berry got up very early the next day. They hurried to the meadow to talk to Betty. But the friends were too late. The little bumblebee had already left. The only thing they found was a farewell note she'd left for them pinned to a tree. Balthazar sat down on the grass and started to cry. Berry didn't laugh at him this time. Let's go after her, the little snail said. I'm sure we can catch her up.
Berry, you're such a slow snail. We'll never catch up with Betty if you don't hurry up,
Balthazar moaned. Berry was going to say something back to Balthazar when a hedgehog stepped out of the bushes.
Perhaps I can help. I'm not too fast, but I'm sure I'm much faster than you three.
The friends liked the idea. They built a little cart out of a horse chestnut shell and tied it to the hedgehog's spikes. The hedgehog cart was ready to roll. Let's rest a little while, Dolly suggested when it got dark. We'll carry on tomorrow morning. Balthazar started to cry again.
We'll never find her.
I can smell something sweet. It's lilac blossom. Lilac? Dolly wondered. But there aren't any lilac bushes around here. Let's look around.
Would you like to come back and live with us? We could build you a little bumblebee house in a tree. You wouldn't have to fly back to your faraway home. We'd be so happy if you lived with us.
That's a super idea. We'd all be very happy. Berry and Dolly nodded. Thank you. I'd love to come and live with you, Betty replied. She was happy. You came all this way to find me. That's so nice of you. They all jumped into the hedgehog cart and trundled back to the meadow. They started to build the house the very next morning. They built Betty a pretty treehouse near the lilac field. When the bumblebee's house was ready, they had a big party. All the forest friends were invited. They danced and ate late into the night and made their new neighbour very welcome indeed. The hot air balloon. One summer afternoon, a storm blew up in the forest. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the snail sat watching it from the spotty house. The wild wind twisted the trees and blew the roofs off houses. The rain came down in buckets. When the rain and wind finally stopped, the two friends took a look around the forest. Look, Dolly, the wind blew this tree over, Berry said. And the rain washed away my flowers, Dolly sighed. Leapy the grasshopper came rushing in.
Dolly! Berry! Come quickly! Someone's lying in the meadow!
The friends found an oil beetle lying in the meadow. Oh, what happened to you? What's your name? Who are you? Dolly sputtered. I'm Adette the oil beetle. I live up in the mountains, but the wind blew me down here and I hit my head really hard. My wings are weak and I can't fly. I don't know how I'm going to get home, the oil beetle sniffled. They lifted Adette up and carried her into Leapy's house. Don't worry, Dolly said eventually. We'll help you get home. That afternoon, Balthazar the bee, Flutter the butterfly and Stanley the stag beetle all came to see Adette. They tried to think of ways to help her get home.
The best thing would be a hot air balloon,
Stanley said. But what could we use to make a balloon? Berry asked. We could use blankets, pillows and sheets, Flutter suggested.
And curtains and towels too,
Stanley added. They got to work immediately. They stitched all the blankets, curtains, sheets and towels together. It took a while to get everything finished, but Adette helped as much as she could. Every day she was feeling stronger, and even her head had stopped hurting.
It's ready.
Thank you, the oil beetle replied happily. Hooray! We're flying! Berry exclaimed. Wow, it's beautiful! We can see the whole forest from here! Dolly laughed. It started to get dark. When they eventually arrived, Adette cried out, Hooray! I'm home! Thank you. Please stay the night and watch the shooting stars with me. We'd love to, the little friends said. Adette quickly made them something to eat and gave them delicious cakes and tea. After dinner, they all sat down in front of Adette's house and waited for shooting stars to appear in the night sky. Hooray! I saw a shooting star! Berry exclaimed excitedly. Me too, Dolly said. And me, added Stanley. They went into Adette's house when it got colder and sat and watched the stars through the window. They all made a wish and fell fast asleep. As she slowly drifted to sleep, Adette wished that someday she would meet her new friends again. Friends. It was a super sunny day and Dolly the ladybird sat staring out of the window. I'm going to eat breakfast, she thought, and then I'll go for a walk in the meadow. She decided to take her wheelbarrow with her. I wonder if I'll find something interesting to take home in my wheelbarrow, she thought to herself. Goodness me, said Dolly. What a lovely red cherry. That's just perfect for my lunch. She tried to lift the cherry into her wheelbarrow, but it was far too heavy. Too heavy for one little ladybird. Just then, Berry the snail appeared. Why the sad face, ladybird? Asked Berry. I can't lift this cherry into my wheelbarrow, Dolly replied. Don't cry, I'll help you, Berry said with a smile, and the two of them picked the cherry up with no trouble at all. Dolly set straight off home with the juicy cherry. Now it was Berry who looked sad. Don't you want to share the cherry with me? The snail said, and stamped his little foot. I did help you. But I found it first, Dolly snapped. You're not having any, it's mine. Berry was very upset. The two of them started to fight over the cherry. It's mine, shouted Dolly. That's not fair, Berry shouted back. They pushed and pulled the cherry until it split clean in two. Berry and Dolly plopped to the ground. They were very surprised when a green grub crawled out of the cherry.
What have you done to my cherry?
He grumbled.
That cherry was my home. Oh, don't look so upset,
the grub said.
I know where we can find plenty more. You can eat cherries while I find a new home for myself.
Dolly helped the grub into her wheelbarrow, and they all set off to look for the cherry tree. When they arrived, they found the ground around the cherry tree was covered in ripe red fruit. Berry and Dolly jumped for joy. The grub fell fast asleep while Berry and Dolly munched away on fresh cherries, and the time soon flew by. It was getting late, so they decided to go home, but this time with 2 cherries, one for Dolly and one for Berry. The sun was setting by the time they reached Berry's house. They took his cherry out of the wheelbarrow and said goodbye. Berry went inside and waved to Dolly from the window. Berry soon fell fast asleep after such an exciting day. The little snail dreamt about playing in cherries with Dolly and eating until their tummies were full. Then Dolly got back home and went straight to bed. From that day on, Berry and Dolly were the best of friends. The Canary Chicks. One day, Christopher the Canary met Chloe and they fell in love. Chloe lived in an oak tree not far away from Dolly's house. The new couple built a nest on the most beautiful branch of the tree. Berry and Dolly watched them building their nest from the ground.
Look, Chloe's been sitting on the nest for days. Do you think she could be sick?
The little snail asked. He was worried.
No, Berry. I'm sure she's going to lay eggs and they'll hatch into canary chicks,
Dolly told him enthusiastically.
Eggs? Chicks?
Berry was confused.
Of course. Chloe will lay the eggs in the nest and she'll keep them warm until they hatch,
the ladybird said. A few days later, Chloe stood up and as she was arranging things in the nest, Berry noticed 3 tiny eggs.
3! There'll be 3 chicks,
he said to Dolly cheerfully. One morning they heard tweeting coming from the oak tree.
Hooray! The chicks have hatched,
Dolly exclaimed and gave Berry a big hug.
Can we take a look at them?
Dolly asked Christopher excitedly.
Of course you can, but please be careful. They're still very tiny,
the proud daddy replied. Christopher let Berry and Dolly hop on his back and he flew them up to the nest.
They're so cute,
Dolly whispered. The snail and the ladybird carefully patted the baby canaries. The little birds grew very quickly and they were soon ready for flying lessons. Chloe was their teacher and they got better day by day.
We've got to go and get some food. Be good,
Christopher told the chicks one morning. And don't even think about flying out of the nest without us. You're still very small and you can only fly with us, Chloe added. But the smallest chick was rather naughty.
Nonsense! I'm very good at flying. I'm going to try it on my own,
he said and jumped out of the nest.
You're not allowed! You're not allowed!
Tweeted the other 2, but they couldn't stop him. The 2 chicks were hopping nervously around the nest when their parents arrived back.
He flew off! Our little brother flew off!
They cried. Oh dear, but he's too small. He could be in all kinds of trouble, Chloe cried. Berry and Dolly heard all the fuss and set out to find the naughty chick. They looked for him everywhere. On the hill, in the mountains, by the lake, in the forest and in the meadow. But he was nowhere to be found. It was getting dark. How are we going to find him when it gets dark? Chloe asked, and she started to sob. But then, little lights appeared in the sky. The fireflies had come to help them.
We can make light. We'll help you find him,
they said.
There he is! There he is in the bush!
Berry shouted suddenly, and they all ran over. The little canary had fallen asleep in the bush. He was exhausted and shivering. Chloe took him in her wings and hugged him happily.
There you are. You should always do as you're told,
Christopher said. Chloe flew back to the nest with her chick on her back, and the fireflies danced around them like stars in the sky. The canary family was soon back together again. Good night, little chicks, Chloe whispered happily as she kept them warm under her wings. The Mushroom's Cap. Berry, Dolly, Balthazar, Flutter, Stanley and Bubble all set off for a long walk in the woods. They were strolling happily along when they heard someone crying.
It's coming from behind that bush,
Berry whispered to the others. They saw a little mushroom crying, and he looked odd because he didn't have a cap. Who took your cap? Dolly asked in her kindest voice.
I don't know. It was missing when I woke up this morning.
Don't worry, we'll help you. We'll find you another cap, Berry reassured the miserable mushroom. The friends all ran back to their houses and returned carrying all kinds of different caps and hats. We've brought some new hats to try, they said, and tried them all on the mushroom's head in turn. Dolly put her dotted hat on him first, but it didn't seem to suit the mushroom at all. Then Flutter put her witch's hat on his head.
But I don't want to be a nasty witch,
the mushroom grumbled. Then Bubble produced a yellow baseball cap, but it was too small. Berry was next to try. I've brought two hats. This is my gardening hat, and this is my devil's hat. The gardening hat looked funny on the mushroom's head, but he wasn't happy.
I don't like this one,
he said in a sullen voice. The devil's hat made him even angrier.
I'm not a little devil, you know,
he shouted with a red face. But he got most upset when Balthazar showed him the red saucepan.
But this is a saucepan. I can't go around with a silly saucepan.
It's not a normal saucepan,
Balthazar replied sharply.
It's our snowman's hat.
The last one to try was Stanley the stag beetle, who had brought a top hat for the mushroom.
Oh, I quite like the look of this one,
the mushroom enthused.
But can't you find my old cap? That's the one I want to wear the most.
So the forest friends started to search for the mushroom's spotty cap. 3 canary chicks suddenly flew by. We know where the mushroom's cap is. We saw 3 woodworms using it for a rowing boat. Everyone down to the stream, Dolly shouted. And sure enough, 3 woodworms were singing and rowing along in the mushroom's cap. Give the mushroom his cap back, Berry shouted.
But we promised to go visit our friends the fleas. We need a boat to get to their house.
But that's a cap, not a boat, and it belongs to the mushroom. Give it back to him, Berry argued. The woodworms eventually gave in and gave the cap back. But how will we go and see the fleas now? They asked sadly. We can take you. We're flying to the little island, the 3 canary chicks twittered. Hooray! We're going to fly! The woodworms shouted and jumped for joy. But we have to take the mushroom his cap back first.
You mean the boat?
The naughty woodworms chuckled, but Dolly gave them one of her serious looks and they stopped laughing.
Thank you so much,
the mushroom said with a big smile as he put it on his head.
It fits just perfectly.
The woodworms hopped onto the canaries' backs.
Have a safe trip,
the mushroom shouted. Enjoy the flight, the others added.
the forest friends all said a final goodbye to the mushroom and walked home with their hats on their heads. 4 seasons. One day at the end of the winter, 3 bark beetles knocked angrily on Leapy's door.
We wanted to dress up as princes for the party, but the 3 fleas are going to be princes. And that's not good. Our crowns and capes are all ready, but we can't wear them. Oh, please help us. Have you got any ideas what we could wear?
They all shouted at once.
Maybe you could be 3 snowballs because everything is covered in snow outside. It would be easy to make the costumes.
Oh, no. That's no good, Leapy. We'd melt the minute we walked into Balthazar's house. We'd turn into a puddle on the floor in no time at all.
Then you could go as cutlery, a knife, a fork and a spoon. You'd only need silver foil.
That's a super idea, Leapy. But we haven't got any silver foil. And we haven't got enough time before tomorrow to get some. We need to think of something simpler.
What do you say to a camel? That's perfect for the 3 of you. A head and 2 humps.
Yes, but the ants went as a camel last year, so it's been done. We need to think of something new. And what are you going as, Leapy?
The bark beetles asked.
I don't know. I still haven't decided.
The grasshopper girl hesitated.
Then the 4 of us could go together,
the boys suggested.
Okay, but what could we go as? 4 flowers? Or 4 devils?
Maybe 4 stars or 4 planets,
the bark beetles listed.
That's not good enough. We need to go with something that there are only 4 of. Only 4, no more, no less. I know the perfect thing. The 4 seasons.
Yes, that's perfect,
the bark beetle said and jumped up and down.
There are 4 seasons. Leapy can be spring because that's girly. And we can dress up as summer, autumn and winter.
They all got hard to work. Leapy sewed herself a pink dress and decorated it with white flowers. She put a pink flower crown on her head. She looked so pretty that the bark beetles all blushed when they saw her. The 3 boys' costumes were soon finished. Summer wore green with a sun on his tummy and a leaf on his hat. Autumn wore all yellow, covered in colourful leaves. Winter's costume was blue, with lots and lots of snowflakes. The next day, they all set off to Balthazar's house for the fancy dress party. The Bumblebee was dressed as a fireman. He warmly welcomed Leapy and the bark beetles.
The 4 seasons have arrived.
Eddie was dressed as a carrot, Bubble as a rocket, Betty as a drop of water, Rosita as a bird, Zephyr as a bus ticket, Morris as a sugar cube, Flutter as a banana, Dolly as a sweetie, and Charlie as a dog. The forest friends voted for the best costume. And of course, the 4 seasons won. Stanley came second with his rainbow costume. Third place went to the snails, to Berry and Sam, who came dressed as a train. Everybody was very happy, and the 3 fleas came to congratulate the winners. Sunflowers. Berry and Dolly planted sunflower seeds in the spring and watered the seeds until little shoots soon appeared. The shoots grew into little plants,
that grew into big plants. Then buds appeared that opened into lovely yellow flowers in the summer. Hooray! The friends cheered when they saw the lovely flowers. Berry noticed that the flowers pointed one way in the morning and another in the afternoon.
Look, Dolly, they're turning their heads.
That's because they always turn to face the sun. That's why they're called sunflowers. When the sun went down, the sunflowers hung their heads and went to sleep. All the forest friends were woken the next morning by shouts of panic. Oh dear, what's happened? Our lovely sunflowers, Dolly cried.
Who could have done such a terrible thing?
Berry wept.
Someone has chewed through the stems of our sunflowers.
Flutter washed their wounds with fresh dew, and Dolly bandaged them all with soft blades of grass. The sunflowers slowly started to smile again. The friends all gathered in Balthazar's house to decide what to do next.
What are we going to do?
Berry sobbed. Someone needs to stand guard at night. I'll go first, said Dolly bravely. The little ladybird hid quietly behind the bush and kept a close eye on the sunflowers. She didn't have to wait for very long. A hamster soon appeared and started to chew at the stems of the sunflowers. Dolly jumped out from her hiding place and shouted, "Shoo!" This surprised the hamster and he ran away. He didn't come back again that night. Flutter guarded the sunflowers the next night, and then Balthazar, and then Stanley. Soon it was Berry's turn. The little snail hid quietly behind the bush and waited. He waited and waited until he eventually fell asleep. He wasn't even woken by the sound of the hamster chewing at the sunflower stems.
Oh dear, I must have fallen asleep. I didn't guard the sunflowers,
Berry sobbed when he saw the sadly sagging sunflowers the following morning. Berry fell asleep. He slept while the hamster chewed the stems again. Why do you all look so sad? Asked Dr. Owl. Dolly told him what had happened to the sunflowers. I think you should talk to the hamster. Ask him not to hurt the sunflowers, Dr. Owl suggested.
There he is. He's asleep in the bush,
Berry whispered to the others. The noise woke the sleeping hamster. The hamster looked scared of the friends and the friends felt frightened of the hamster. There's no need to be scared of us. We just wanted to ask you not to chew our sunflowers.
But then, what will I eat?
The hamster told them.
We'll bring you plenty of apples and carrots to nibble on. Where do you live?
The little snail asked.
I haven't got a house of my own,
the hamster said sadly.
You haven't got a house?
Balthazar repeated in surprise.
Then we'll build you one.
Dolly brought apples, Berry brought seeds, Flutter brought raisins, Balthazar brought dandelion leaves, and Stanley brought carrots.
My new house is really super,
the hamster said with a cheery smile.
And thank you so much for all the yummy food.
The hamster never chewed the sunflower stems again, and they smiled happily at Berry and Dolly and all their friends for the rest of the summer.
The Windmill. One summer day, Berry and Dolly were playing badminton by the windmill. All of a sudden, they heard the sound of sobbing.
It's coming from the windmill,
the snail boy said. They set off in the direction of the sound and soon arrived at the windmill. There they found the mill beetle sitting sobbing on the ground. "Why are you crying?" they asked him.
The storm damaged the mill sails. They're ruined and I can't mend them,
the mill beetle complained. Let's call the others here. Stanley's got a saw, Balthazar's got a hammer, and I'm sure we can all fix it together, Dolly proposed. All right, the Mill Beetle sniffed. The Ladybird girl flew off right away to tell her friends. Very soon, Stanley, Balthazar, Zephyr, Eddie, Bubble and Morris arrived. They all got hard to work fixing the broken sails. They worked hard for 2 long days and were eventually done by the end of the second day. Hooray! Just like new! The Mill Beetle cheered. I'll start the mill going again tomorrow, and I'll make flour and bake fresh bread for you all. But the next day did not begin well at all. The wind had no intention of blowing, and the sails of a windmill cannot go round without wind. The Mill Beetle started to cry again. All right, OK, please don't cry. We'll push it a little and maybe a breeze will blow up, Stanley suggested, and all the others agreed. 7 of them pushed the 6 sails. Stanley, Balthazar, Bubble, Berry, Eddie, Zephyr and Morris. They pushed it around and around, but they soon got tired. There's never going to be any bread, the Mill Beetle moaned. I'll go and tell the wind to blow, Zephyr announced as she flew high up into the sky. She spoke politely to the wind. Dear wind, please blow for us a bit, because the windmill sails won't go round and it's making the Mill Beetle cry. This surprised the wind, and he muttered something to himself before flying lazily downwards. He took a deep breath and began to blow the windmill's sails. The mill started to move and work once more. The Mill Beetle filled the hopper and the millstones ground the wheat into the finest flour. The white flour began to form an impressive heap. The windmill sails went around and around and did not stop until the grasshopper girl signalled to the wind. Thank you, that was just enough, she said with a grateful smile, and the wind flew back up into the sky. When the flour was ready, the Mill Beetle began to prepare the bread dough. He put the loaf into the oven and waited patiently for it to bake. When it was golden brown all over, he took it out and cut it into thick slices. They spread the bread with butter and jam and feasted until every last crumb had been gobbled up.
August, the Moon Seesaw. One afternoon in August, the forest friends decided to search for shooting stars in the sky. Let's go up to the top of the hill. We're sure to see them from there, said Dolly. And we can visit the Moon Beetle, Flutter added. The Moon Beetle was sitting in front of his house, enjoying the summer sunshine. He was delighted to see his friends and he invited them inside. Oh, I'm so happy you came. What brought you to these parts? He asked. We'd like to search for shooting stars with you, Berry explained. Super. I'll make some lemonade. Let's make a seesaw while we're waiting, said Stanley. Good idea, Balthazar agreed. They found some long planks at the bottom of the garden. They sawed and hammered, and the seesaw was soon complete. But when Stanley sat on it, the wood made a loud noise and broke in two. The plank was too weak. We need to strengthen it, the bee-boy complained. So they set to work once more, and the seesaw was ready in no time. But when Flutter and Dolly sat on it, it didn't see or saw. Ah, we made the screws too tight, the stag beetle grumbled. So they set to work once more. But when they were done, the bit in the middle snapped clean in half. We'll never get it right, and it's getting late for building things, Balthazar announced. I've got one last idea, the Moon Beetle said with a secretive smile. Oh, Moon, please come down here to us. And the moon came down until it reached the top of the hill. Then the Moon Beetle rolled over to the moon and whispered in its ear. The moon grinned and simply said, Okay. The seesaw's here. You can sit on it. But hurry, because the moon can't stay for long, the Moon Beetle instructed. We can't leave you out, said Flutter. And they laughed and played until a sparkling star house landed on the ground nearby. And who should step out of the door but the silent Star Girl?
Oh, Star Girl, said the moon, you must have been surprised when I suddenly vanished from the sky. But I was just helping out these friends with a seesaw ride.
Star Girl, it's super to see you. Come and watch the shooting stars with us too, the butterfly girl cried, and she hugged her old friend.
It's time for me to say goodbye, because I have to go back to the night sky, the moon told them, and it started to rise upwards.
They did not have to wait long before they saw their first shooting star. After that, there were so many stars shooting around that it was hard to keep count. When the last ball of light had flashed across the sky, the Star Girl stepped back into her house and flew up into the sky. Then the little friends all set off home. The Moon Beetle snuggled up in bed and soon fell fast asleep, and the night was filled with the gentle tinkle of pretty flowers.